Hello, today for review I've got yet another model that recently gathered a lot of attention and gathered a lot of hype around it, and as you can see it's CCA C16. Pretty interesting model because they have 8 balanced armatures per each earpiece. Of course it's not Knowles, it's not Sonion, it's some less known manufacturer, probably it's Belsing, but anyway it's really interesting, especially if we took a price into attention, and their price is only $95. I will put AliExpress and other links to the description. So it's really reasonable price, but of course, you know, number of drivers doesn't matter. Sound is what matters more, is the most important thing. And if sound is good, I don't care how many drivers of which type is used in these in-ear monitors. So now let's have a closer look. Box is simple. It reminds KZ boxes and QKZ ones, and as far as I know, CCA is somewhat related to KZ. It's their daughter company or sister company, not sure, but anyway. It's small but nice, with nice polygraphy, and looks really accurate. So specifications: 35 grams weight, 0.75mm pins, frequency response from 20 Hz to 40 kHz, but most important figures are 27 ohms of impedance and 105 decibels per milliwatt of sensitivity. I really like that impedance and sensitivity are average. It makes these earphones a good load both for weak sources like smartphones or small DABs, and both for powerful sources. They won't gather too much background noise. So inside we'll have earphones themselves. They need some shake, warranty and user manual, 2 spare pair of tips, of course stock cable, and CCA themselves. Of course, you know, for $95 having 16 drivers, it's a really good number, but I think they could spend some cents and put additional tips to the accessory set. I think it's a problem that KZ and all related companies are recently missing. They need to add more accessories. In terms of design and build quality, CCA are really nice. You know, KZ plant or CCA plant, not sure which of them are the owners of the plant. Recently they mastered creating these metal face plates. We've seen a few models with such metal face plates recently: KZ ZSN Pro, CCA models, and upcoming KZ ZS10 Pro, all having really nice metal face plates with unusual shapes. They are pretty big, pretty thick, and looks really stylish. Nice level of metal work and so on. Besides that, other part of shells are made from plastic. They have a familiar shape. They really remind some KZ models, but this time they are not transparent, so we can't count the drivers inside. But anyway, you know, even weight suggests that they have a lot of stuff put in this shell. I'm not sure, but most probably on the YouTube there will be some teardown videos, and someone already counted drivers inside, so I'm pretty sure that they have that 8 drivers that creators declared. Spouts have average length, but they have normal angle, so they fit into ears nicely, providing average sound isolation and pretty good wearing comfort. There is a protective grill inside and there are small lips to better hold the tips. I'm not sure why KZ or CCA doesn't make a bigger lip, but anyway it succeed in holding the tip, and I think it's important. So in terms of design, build quality and wearing comfort, really good in-ear monitors. Cable is made replaceable, and as usual they've used different kind of 2-pin connector. I think they are switching it frequently. I could assume that they trying to get more money selling wires, but actually their wires are so inexpensive that I don't think it's a reasonable business model. So this time they used a connector with a bit recessed pins. Actually this one is for right earpiece, here it is. And with nice metal body, looking pretty attractive, I can say. Channels are encoded with color, blue one is left, red one is right, so everything is traditional, but the cable itself, it's a typical KZ cable. So we've seen it many times before. As usual, you can get version with microphone or without. It's normal, but nothing super fancy for this price, I think. It's soft, it has low microphonic, it has ear hooks formed without memory wire, so pretty comfortable cable, but of course, you know, it's not stellar. Splitter is typical, and after the splitter it goes all 4 wires go braided way down to the 3.5mm jack, so probably they could put a bit better cable to the accessory set, but anyway, I think it's acceptable. And actually there are a lot of other cables, but anyway, there is not much sense in replacing this cable, only from aesthetics perspective, if you'd like something more fancy, because sonically and in terms of controls, in terms of comfort, it fits this in-ear monitors nicely. So I really like this design, and especially taking price into account. And of course about the sound. For CCA, creators decided to make a bit unusual sound signature comparing to KZ. Maybe that's why they decided to launch separate brand name, because usually with multi-balanced armature drivers, KZ prefer to create a bassy, massive sound with a bit of darker representation. But CCA at the same time, they are closer to neutrality with just a slight accents on the lows and treble. They are not monitoring neutral, but they are more on the neutral side, and it's pretty unusual, you know. So let's have DAP on the table and let's proceed with step-by-step description. So bass is accented and the main accent is done in the area about 100 Hz. So it's not deeper layers of bass, and actually deepest bass here is a bit rolled off, but it's still present. So it has more accent on the mid bass, and it gives them enough of weight and pretty nice balanced sounding. Bass has normal speed, maybe even closer to fast bass, but not dry, not like in single balanced armature models, for example. And at the same time, of course, it's not a dynamic driver. It's not some cheap hybrid model, so it's a bit faster than in typical and expensive hybrids, and it's noticeable. It offers better texturing, it offers more realistic instruments with low going notes, for example drums and so on. And at the same time, bass is pretty tight and normally controlled, so you know it's probably not a model for some electronic dance music, at least not for those who prefer accented lows, but it's a good model for those who like balanced lows with normal speed. And as an example, I've got Roger Waters' solo album Is This the Life We Really Want, and song name The Last Refugee. If you heard this song, you probably remember this big drum kicks that is sometimes appeared in the background. And you know, in some inexpensive hybrid models or in some models with low accent, this drum kick sounds a bit annoying. While CCA C16, well, it's really hard to pronounce, at least for me. So with this in-ear monitors, these drum kicks are really well balanced. And what is also really good here, what I like and what I pay attention, transition between lows and mids are pretty good. You know, in multi-balanced armatures, in the inexpensive multi-balanced armatures, usually there are problems with coherence, with drivers overlap, with proper crossover implementation, and it usually causes some drop-offs or some unnatural sounding, usually somewhere in the lower mids, but those are not the case. Of course, that overlaps are still noticeable, but they are really these areas are really tiny and they don't spoil the overall sounding. Mids are done in natural manner with good speed, with nice resolution, not superb but really nice. You can definitely hear that those are balanced armatures. They are a bit on the micro detalization side, but still they having normal weight, so you won't get anemic or too thin clinical monitoring sound representation. Another thing that these earphones do good for their price is staging. Stage is pretty wide and pretty deep. Of course, it's not super as good as some $1,000 model, but for $100 they really succeed. Especially I like the layering in depth, pretty realistic one. They have good weight, so vocals, especially male ones, sound normal, and they don't have typical huge peaks on the upper mids or on the lower treble, so they don't have these attempts to add additional clarity to the sound. As a mids example, I've got really good group. It's threshold, probably. Threshold, I should look into the dictionary. So it's a slipstream, good example of pretty fast progressive metal, and it's pretty intense melody in terms of distorted guitars, drums, vocals, so lot of sound, especially in the mid-range, and this in-ear monitors really represent this track pretty nicely. And you can definitely hear all the instruments, so separation is pretty nice. And probably worst or weakest, probably not the worst, weakest part in the sound of this in-ear monitors is treble. You know, if they just improve treble a little bit, they could be much more expensive model. Well, probably in recent reviews of Chi-Fi in-ear monitors I already said that about some other models, and those are these ones are the same. So if treble would be better, they could cost definitely more. Of course, treble here is normal. It has normal resolution, not super extended, but anyway pretty nice. Of course, they have almost zero treble layering, they have faster attacks and decays that they should be, but at the same time they lacking a bit of neutrality, and because of some peaks on the mid treble, they that peaks not make them sounding fatiguing or too harsh. They're not bright, at least to my ears, but at the same time they spoil neutrality and this natural representation a little bit. Of course, it's not a big issue, and for their price it's pretty acceptable, you know, but treble is a bit simplified. As an example of the treble, I've got Alan Parsons project, the Gold Bug. pretty famous tune. Not everyone knows the name, but it's still pretty popular, and they have a lot of percussion, lot of synthesizers going pretty high in the treble area. So, and this in-ear monitors manage to play this part pretty acceptable. For some heavy metal genres, for example, there will definitely be problems with percussion because they just sounding too uniform, and you won't be able probably to distinguish all the cymbals one from another. But usually modern records are so spoiled with compression that it won't be a big issue. So to summarize, really good natural balanced sound, and if they just improved treble a little bit, they would be giant killers. But in this existing tuning, they pretty good. They're just simply having normal price to quality ratio. Speaking about the comparison, there are tons and tons of models in this price range, and for example KZ models BA10, AS10, they are warmer and less resolving, for example. My favorite in-ear monitors in this price range, one of the favorite Austria CCA C16, they are dynamic drivers, so they have less resolution and more weighty low frequencies and more probably a bit better treble, but also not superb. What else we've got in this price range? For example, FIO's FA1, they have a bit more forward mids and the better treble, but resolution is a bit less in FIO. But they are single balanced armature drivers, they have less weight on less tight lows and so on. Well, I'm trying to recall some other models. There are many of them, but nothing came to my mind, so probably I will finish this review. I suppose I soon will have new updated and retuned KZ ZS10 Pro. I really hope that they improve them. And I think that KZ and all their related companies are improving more and more. They from the awful models that having only excuse of price, they really made a huge effort, and they're creating models that definitely worth their price. And CCA C16 is just a good example. Thank you for attention.